So, have you ever gotten into an argument with a family member, a friend, or even a coworker? Here are some steps to consider. So, in Genesis chapter 13, Abraham had problems with his nephew Lot. So, at this point of the story, God was blessing Abraham so much that it was pouring onto his nephew. He had lots of livestock, silver, and gold. This was the problem. They had too much possessions, not enough land. Even though Abraham and Lot got along, their employees, their herdsmen, were fighting. This is how Abraham dealt with the situation. Number one, he acknowledged the problem. Even though him and his nephew Lot got along well, their employees were fighting and he couldn't ignore it. Most people would have said, y'all need to get along, and you know what, we're fine, but you guys are the problems. But he didn't say that. He knew there was a problem and it needed to be fixed. Number two, when he went to Lot to deal with this problem, he defined the relationship. He said, listen, I'm your uncle, you're my nephew. We got a lot of history here. This problem does not define our relationship. I think that's something that we need to acknowledge too whenever we are confronted with a problem between friends, families, or coworkers, is that this problem should not define your relationship with that individual. The third thing he did to deal with this problem was he set boundaries. I think this is a huge problem when it comes to family. We don't know how to set boundaries, or we don't respect boundaries. In nature, when something doesn't respect the boundaries of something else, it's called a natural disaster. When water overcomes the land, it's called a flood or a tsunami. But when the water respects the land and the land respects the water, and there's a boundary there, well, everything's at peace. And so it should be when it comes to family matters. And number four, which is the last example that we find in Genesis chapter 13 on how Abraham dealt with this problem with his nephew, was peace over success. It says in verse 9 that Abraham went up to Lot and said, look, if you choose to go left, I will go right. But if you choose to go right, I will go left. You choose which land you prefer. Lot ended up choosing the most fertile land, the most green and watered land. And Abraham was cool with it. He said, fine, choose the best, and I will go the other direction. And I think that's the problem, that when it comes to partners of a business or an inheritance of something that we think we deserve, there's always a dispute because we want the best for us and our family. Sometimes we choose success over peace. Just because we are getting more doesn't necessarily mean it is good. Abraham was willing to take the loss because he knew that God was with him. If God brought him this far, he can take him further. And everything he had wasn't on his own. He didn't just work for it on his own. He knew that God gave it to him. And just like God gave, he can take away. And just like he can take away, he can give again. And so quickly going over the 4 steps to dealing with disputes is: number one, acknowledging that there is a problem. Number two, defining the relationship and that the relationship is the most important thing. Number three, set your boundaries. Don't be afraid to give people space. Number four, peace over success. What you lost, God can give you again. I hope this has been a blessing to you. If there's something that was missing or something that needs to be added, let me know in the comments.